Dad survived. The cardiac team at St. Mary's performed an emergency stent procedure, and by the next morning, he was complaining about the hospital food and asking when he could go home. The doctor says you need to rest for at least a week, I told him, sitting by his hospital bed. And no more ignoring chest pains, got it? All right, he grumbled, then softened. Ethan, you saved my life yesterday. I squeezed his hand. Just returning the favor for all the times you saved mine growing up. Landing a helicopter in that uptight neighborhood. He chuckled, then winced. Worth it just to see the look on that woman's face. News of the incident spread through Maple Grove like wildfire. By the time I returned home, my voicemail was full of messages from the HOA board demanding an emergency meeting. My front lawn had a circular patch of flattened grass where the helicopter landed, a souvenir I decided to keep. The emergency HOA meeting was scheduled for Wednesday evening in the community center. The room was packed with residents, not just board members. Laura sat at the center of the board table, a stack of papers before her, her expression grimly satisfied. This emergency session of the Maple Grove Homeowners Association is now in session, Laura announced. We are here to address the blatant violations committed by resident Ethan Carter on Sunday evening, which include unauthorized landing of aircraft, destruction of lawn landscaping, noise ordinance violations, disruption of community peace, and failure to submit proper forms for emergency services. Are you serious right now? I interrupted, unable to hold back. Mr. Carter, you will have your turn to speak, Laura said icily. As I was saying, these violations carry a combined fine of $4,750, as well as potential eviction proceedings. Objection. Colonel Harris stood up. Point of order. Laura sighed. Colonel Harris, this is not a court, and you are not on the board. I move to dismiss all charges against Carter, the colonel continued. You don't have the authority to. I second the motion. Rachel called from across the room. This is not how we conduct. All in favor. Colonel Harris shouted. Nearly every hand in the room shot up. Laura banged her gavel, face flushing. This is completely out of order. The board will decide this matter, not a mob vote. A board member, a retired attorney named Wilson, cleared his throat. Actually, Laura, according to our bylaws, a unanimous vote of attending members can override the board's decision on any matter not related to structural modifications. Laura's jaw dropped. That's not possible. Section 17, paragraph 9, Wilson said mildly. I helped write it, remember? But the violations were in response to a medical emergency. Another board member, Mrs. Lee, interjected, during which you, Laura, blocked an ambulance from entering the neighborhood. The room erupted in murmurs. Apparently, this detail had spread too. I was following proper visitor protocol. Laura protested. My husband is alive because of Ethan's quick thinking, a woman's voice called out. I turned to see Susan Grant, who I'd met once at a community barbecue. If it had been my Tom's heart instead of Ethan's father, would you have blocked the ambulance for us too? Laura seemed to shrink under the collective stare. Wilson cleared his throat again. I move that we not only dismiss all charges against Mr. Carter, but also vote on whether Laura Bennett should continue as HOA president. The second motion passed with even more enthusiasm. 3 hours later, Maple Grove had a new HOA president, Rachel, who promised to not be insane about it, a revised set of emergency protocols, and a much more relaxed approach to lawn maintenance. Laura put her house on the market the following week. 6 months later, Dad was fully recovered and helping me build a proper deck in my backyard without submitting any forms, because Rachel had abolished most of the absurd restrictions. You know, Dad said, hammering a nail with more vigor than a man who'd had a heart attack should have, that helicopter landing was the best thing that ever happened to this neighborhood. I looked around. Colonel Harris's hedges had grown to their natural height. Tom and Lisa's golden retriever played in their unfenced front yard. Across the street, a house that had been vacant for months had new owners moving in. You might be right, I agreed. Though I hope I never have to do it again. Mr. Carter, a voice called. I turned to see our new neighbor crossing the street. I'm Nate, just moved in. Wanted to introduce myself. Welcome to the neighborhood, I said, shaking his hand. It's a pretty relaxed place these days. So I've heard, he grinned. That's why I bought here. I'm a pilot to medical helicopter, just like you. Dad burst out laughing. You're kidding. Nope. Heard all about your landing. Pretty impressive. What are the odds of two medevac pilots on the same street? As if on cue, a moving truck pulled up in front of Laura's old house, which had finally sold after 3 price reductions. Who bought the Dragon Lady's lair? Dad asked, nodding toward the truck. Nate's grin widened. That'd be our chief flight surgeon and her family. She heard where I was moving and decided it sounded perfect. I stared at him. You're telling me we're going to have 3 emergency medical flight crew members on the same street? Looks that way, Nate shrugged. Hope that's okay with the HOA. Dad laughed so hard I worried about his heart again. Something tells me, I said, watching a woman in a flight jacket climb out of a car behind the moving truck, that Rachel isn't going to mind at all. And she didn't. 6 months later, Maple Grove became the unofficial residence of choice for half the airborne emergency medical staff in the county. We never had to land a helicopter in the neighborhood again, but we all knew if we needed to, there wouldn't be anyone at the gate with a clipboard to stop us. As for Laura, I heard she moved to a high-rise condo downtown Olans to measure. No mailboxes to police. Probably for the best. Sometimes, the most rigid things need to be broken before they can be fixed. In our case, it just took a medical emergency and a helicopter landing to break all the right rules.